In this video, I'm going to talk about why I choose to rent rather than buy. I'm going to go over some of the myths that I've found about between buying and renting, because I've done both. I'll talk a little bit about net worth and cash flow and how that can impact your decision whether to rent or buy. But mostly this video will be personally why I choose to rent. I also thought I could answer the question for you. If I had an extra $1 million, would I then choose to buy? And I'll put timestamps in the description below on all of the things that I'm going to cover. Okay, so before we actually get into this video, I just wanted to make a quick disclaimer. This is not going to be about one way is better than the other way. It actually depends on your situation, your financial situation, what your goals are in life. There's many reasons to buy a house that aren't financial. They could be just you've fallen in love with a property or anything like that. So mostly in this video, I'll be talking specifically just about the financial side of it. And obviously I'll be talking about my experiences with both buying and renting. So first I'm going to cover some of the myths, a lot of these things that people keep saying to me over and over again that I found just is not the right way of thinking of things. So the first biggest one, people always say to me, why do you rent? Renting is dead money. It's paying somebody else's mortgage and not your own. And why would you do that? And I try and explain to them that, okay, you are paying somebody else's mortgage, but if you own your own house, very little of that money is actually going to pay off the house, especially in the first 10 years. Most of it is going to the bank. So if you think of rent money as dead money, you also have to think of the interest on your home loan as dead money. They're both the same thing. They're not going to build a property of your own. They're going to somebody else. And let's talk about bank interest for a minute. An average loan here in Australia is around $500,000. So let's say you're buying a house for $500,000 and your bank loan is, at the moment, it's around 4% here in Australia. So what you'll end up paying over the course of your 30-year loan, which is a normal kind of time stamp for loans like home loans, is you'll be paying almost, not quite, $1 million for that house. So nearly the exact value of your house you'll again be paying in interest to the bank. So you didn't actually pay $500,000 for that house. You paid just under $1 million for that house. So most people don't get that. They think, oh, I paid $500,000 for this house. No, you've got to factor in the interest. You'll actually be paying just under $1 million for that house. Plus, of course, there's all the extra costs that if you're going to buying a house that you'll need to do. You'll need to purchase insurance. There'll be council rates and taxes. There'll be fees for buying the house, for selling the house. If anything goes wrong with the property, you're up for the maintenance or the repair. You'll notice that when you have a house, the costs just go up and up and up and up. It's not just the initial price that you purchased the house for, but there's also all of these other expenses that you've got now that you own the house. Whereas renting, I have one fixed cost, my rent. Also, I don't see renting as dead money. I see it as a transaction. I pay money and I'm provided somewhere to live. It's kind of like if you go to the movies, you pay money to see the movie. You don't actually get anything physical. You get to see the movie and then you leave. That's the way I see rent. I pay money, I get somewhere of my choosing to live. Okay, and another thing about renting, it's much more flexible. If you've ever tried to sell up and move house, it's not so easy when you own a house because it's going to take months and months and months, whereas renting, I could just get up and move anytime I wanted. I have no plans to move at the moment, but if I wanted to, it's a lot less expensive. I don't have to pay real estate fees. I don't have to pay marketing fees to sell my house. And that's if you're in a good market, you may not be able to sell. Okay, so now we're going to talk about net worth and cash flow. When I'm talking about net worth, I'm talking about the assets that you own. So your house, your stock portfolio, your investment properties, anything that's going to grow in value. And with cash flow, I'm talking about the money coming in each month. So your paycheck or any other income that you receive. So there's 4 different levels of net flow and cash flow. At the top, the place where you want to be is high net worth and high cash flow. That means you have a lot of assets that you're building. That might be your house, that might be another asset. And you also have enough cash flow coming in to cover all of your bills, all of your food and everything. So you could easily start a savings plan. You've got enough money and you're building net worth. That's the ideal where we all want to get to. The next level is low net worth, so you don't own a house or anything else of value, but you have high cash flow. Now, this is the next best place to be in, because if you've got a high cash flow, which is enough money coming in from different sources of income, then you can actually start to quite easily build your net worth. Whether you want to buy a house or invest in a stock portfolio or in investment property or anything else, you can actually build your net worth that way if you're starting with a high cash flow. So if you've got a high cash flow, it's quite easy to start building your net worth because you have the money to do so. The third rung is high net worth but low cash flow. This is where most people are. They've bought a house, but their cash flow is low and they're struggling to pay the bills each month. This is why budgeting videos are so popular. People are trying to cut costs so they can increase their cash flow. They think they're doing the right thing because they're building net worth, and eventually in, say, 30 years, sure, it's going to work out. But in the meantime, within those years, you'll be struggling. So I've been here before. I call it my house rich, cash poor period. And obviously at the lowest end is low net worth and low cash flow. These are the people who don't have much income coming in. They don't have many assets. And if you're here, it's so difficult to start building net worth. It's so difficult to try and find more cash flow. So people who are on a pension or welfare are usually at this rung, and it's incredibly difficult to start building when you're here. It can be done, but it is so much more difficult. So your first step, if you are here, is to try and increase your cash flow so then you can start building net worth. Okay, so where am I on this scale? Surprisingly, you might think I'm actually at the top, but my assets are not in a house, they're in a stock portfolio. And because the stock portfolio is income producing, I also have a pretty good cash flow as well. So if I was to take that money out of the stock market and buy a house with it, I would be coming down to level 3, which is I'd still have a high net worth, except I would now be cash poor. I wouldn't have an income. I wouldn't have much of an income anymore. So I would actually be worse off financially if I was to buy a house. That's because my asset is an income producing asset and not a fixed cost. So I have been here before. I've been the house rich, cash poor position before. I've owned 2 properties in my life, and I have to say it's not somewhere I want to be again. I didn't like the feeling of having to struggle to pay the bills. It was lovely to live in a house that you own, to do whatever you wanted. That part of it was lovely, but it didn't make me rich. It didn't help me financially. I was struggling just like most other people. And now that I'm renting, I'm not struggling anymore. I'm actually pretty financially independent now. And that would change if I bought, so I don't have any plans to buy. So then now you've got a good base on why I choose to rent. 1, I'm completely debt-free. I have no debt whatsoever. 2, I'm financially independent, and yes, I'll be renting for the rest of my life, but I don't care. Those bills are covered. Now, obviously, they're going to put the rent up at some stage, but yes, I could afford that. And sure, in 30 years, I'm not going to own a house, but I'm completely fine with that. In fact, I would much rather have a healthy stock portfolio, which I can, if I need money, I can sell some shares at any time, which someone who owns a house can't quickly get cash if they need to. But yeah, my expenses are pretty much fixed. I don't have any nasty surprises. If something goes wrong on the rental property, it's not my responsibility to fix it. So say the plumbing goes wrong, or some car crashes into the fence, or something goes wrong like that, that's not my responsibility to fix. It's not a cost that I have to worry about. So the big question, if $1 million was to land in my lap, would I buy then? I've actually thought a lot about this question. It's a really interesting question, and the answer is no, I wouldn't. I would put that money into the stock market and give myself a nice income pay rise. It means I could afford to go on 2 or 3 holidays each year instead of 1. It would mean that I might even want to upgrade my accommodation and find somewhere else to rent because I could move so quickly and easily, maybe with a pool or something else. But yeah, I wouldn't buy a house even if I had an extra $1 million, because why would I? Maybe if I had an extra 5 million, I might consider it, but still, I quite like the convenience, the simplicity, and the no stress of renting. So yeah, for me, financially, renting is the best option because my net worth is in an asset that's producing income for me. I've done what everybody else is supposed to do. You're supposed to buy a house, you're supposed to try and pay it off. And I'm not going to say that property is bad, because I did very well with the property when they sold. So yeah, those are the reasons why I rent. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See ya!